Hello, and welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast. The podcast where you can be where you were created to be. An alpha male. Strong, courageous, dominant, and in control. Who is this guy talking? Who am I? A question we should all ask ourselves. First and foremost, I am a Christian. That's first and foremost in everything that I do, and this podcast is no different. I make no apologies for that. You don't have to be a Christian to listen to this, but know that everything in life I come at, hopefully, from a Christian perspective and a Christian worldview. I grew up anything but affluent in the backwoods of the South, the southeastern United States. I was not born and raised a Christian. From my very earliest memories, I can remember running around outside the woods with a gun, doing stuff outside. I joined the Marine Corps at 17, where by God's grace I made it through several combat tours in one piece as infantry, 0351. After my combat tours in Iraq, I was an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps. After my time with the Marine Corps, I went to work for LAPD, where I worked patrol assignments and more specialized assignments, where again, by God's grace, He got me through working some of the nastiest streets in the country on some fairly dangerous assignments in one piece. Not because I'm better than any of the other men that did not make it back, but simply because He chose to have grace on me and mercy on me. I also served the United States Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. Even before I joined the Marine Corps, I started competition shooting and winning competitions. Started doing that from a very early age and have competed and won, by God's grace, with the talents He's given me in all manner of things. Anything from precision rifle to action pistol, all different disciplines of shooting, including archery, a muzzleloader, and shotgun. Have competed in all those things and been very blessed. As I alluded to earlier, started hunting at a very early age. I've been very blessed to hunt all over this beautiful country. Everything from white-tailed deer on the East Coast to mule deer on the West Coast. Everything from prairie dogs and coyotes to wolf and bear and elk and all manner of exotic species. I have also been a private contractor for the United States government. I have also, before the job that I have now, was very blessed to be the commander of a tactical team, the commander of an SRT team, a special response team, where our number one job was dealing with active shooters. And I was very blessed to be the commander of that unit. I'm very humbled that I got to do that. I left my job and career in the big city to come out in the country because I missed being out in the country and hunting and fishing. And right now I'm very blessed to be a professional hunter and guide. But the number one thing in life that I am is first and foremost a preacher and then a warrior. And that's what we're talking about today. Those are my callings. Preacher, warrior. What are your callings? Are you called to be a warrior? The Bible says many things about God, and God has many attributes. But it says in Exodus 15, He is a warrior. It says straight up in His very own words, God is a warrior. Now, if God is a warrior, and you are made in the very image of God, I see no contradiction in being a strong man of God and being a warrior. In fact, quite the opposite. Look at many examples in the Bible. Let us look at Abraham, patriarch, through whom all the nations of the world will be blessed through his seed. Abraham, we think of him as many things, but when Lot was captured, he led armed men in battle. He is a warrior. Look at Moses. Now we think of Moses, sometimes we get that picture of him super old coming down the mountain with tablets of stone. And I don't know what Moses looked like, but I know that he was a military leader. Early on, we see that he killed a man in close combat, and he led his men in battle against the Amalekites, When they attacked the stragglers at the rear, what did he do? He turned and defeated them. Of course, all of this is by God's grace, but they were men of war. They were warriors. In fact, Moses tells his people, the Levites, to grab their swords. So obviously those men had swords. And to strike down the people who were doing idol worship. And who succeeded? Moses. Joshua, a great man of war who led, by God's grace, the Israelites, by the strength of God's arm, into battle many times, crushing the people of Jericho, putting them to the sword, and many other nation states he destroyed by the power of God. A great warrior. And let us look at David. All throughout David's life, a mighty warrior, starting out killing lions and bears, protecting the flock as a shepherd, striking down Goliath with a stone. We might get back to that later. But then later on, with a sword as a mighty warrior, leading his men into battle. In fact, that was one of the things that the king Saul was jealous of him for, is how many men that he killed in battle. And it's written many things about David's mighty men. A man of war. David was a warrior. And it's written that David is a man after God's own heart. So obviously, there is no contradiction between being a warrior and being a strong man of God. As we said earlier, if the Lord is a warrior and you are made in his image, it must be okay for you to be a warrior. You may be saying, well, that's Old Testament stuff, and I would say there's only one God. And then I would also point to Luke chapter 22, the words of Jesus Christ himself. But now he who has a money bag, let him take it, and likewise a knapsack. And he who has no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. And what does one do with a sword? So they said, Lord, look, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, it is enough. So Jesus tells his disciples to be armed. Also, there is 12 disciples and only 2 swords. So that leads me to wonder, is every man called to be a warrior? That I cannot answer. But this is not the Everyman podcast. This is the Alpha Male podcast. I know that I'm called to be a warrior. I don't know if you're called to be a warrior. Only you know that. Do you feel that desire, that calling deep down in your soul? Do you feel that deep down, the calling to be a warrior? If you do, you know it. One of the main things I want to get across is if that is you, if you are called to be a warrior, don't let society beat that out of you or make you think that it's wrong as an alpha male. There is no contradiction. I see no contradiction in being a strong man of God, made in his own image, and being a warrior. So if you're called to be a warrior, if that's you, don't back down from it. One thing I've learned in life, it probably took me a lot longer than it should have, but don't try and be who everybody else is trying to force you to be. Don't try and be what society wants you to be. Be what you are called to be by God. And only you know what that is. But if you're called to be a warrior, you be a warrior. There's lots of different ways to be a warrior. There's lots of different weapons for a warrior. Couple of things about a warrior. I have this little mantra. I have no idea whether I came up with it or somebody else. I've been saying it a long time. But one of the simple sayings I try to live by, know thy God, know thyself, and know thy weapon. Any good warrior has a commander. My ultimate commander, my ultimate authority is God. I must first know God. If I want to do the second ones, know myself and know my weapon, I must first know God because God made me. He knows me better than I could ever know myself. And he knows what battles I am supposed to fight and what battles I am not supposed to fight. Just because you are called to be a warrior doesn't mean you can fight all the time. A great warrior has restraint. A great warrior knows when to strike and when to have self-discipline and self-control and not strike. Only fight the good fight, the righteous battle. As I alluded to earlier, I did not grow up a Christian, but I still had this calling to fight, and I No excuses, but I wasn't enlightened yet. God had not called me yet. Or I did not listen yet is probably a better way to put it. And I would pick fights and I would look for fights, and I fought a lot. I fought a lot more than I should have. And let me tell you, there's no honor in fighting a fight that's not righteous. How do you get to be better at something? One of the ways is to look at somebody that's better than you as an example. And if God is perfect, which we know that He is, and it says the Lord is a warrior, obviously we should study Him, the greatest warrior, first and foremost. Also, like I said, if you're going to know yourself, if you know that you're a warrior and you want to know yourself better and not deny the calling to which you were called, if you wanted to understand something completely, let's say you wanted to understand a certain kind of car engine, it might be beneficial to go to the ones who designed it, the ones who maintain it, the ones who understand it. Well, the one who made you and created you and designed you is God. If you want to know yourself, know God first, and He'll show you yourself. And then again, like we said, or like I said, I don't know if this is from anywhere else, but know your weapon. Warriors have weapons. I don't care where you are, if you don't live in America and you're not allowed to have guns or whatever. Guns are kind of my bread and butter, as you heard in the bio. But you don't need guns to be a warrior. If you only have your hands and your feet, assuming you have working hands and feet and you're that blessed, that's a blessing. Your number one weapon, always know the proper order. You first get victory from God before anything else. Then you win the battle in your mind of courage and discipline. Then you win the battle in your hands. Whatever that last weapon is, whether it's just your hands and your feet, whether it's like David where he killed a giant who had a sword and a spear with just a sling and a stone, whatever your weapon is, a soldier knows his weapon. He masters his weapon. He trains with his weapon. A soldier is ready. A soldier stays ready. A warrior stays ready. A warrior trains. A warrior has a sharp sword. A warrior knows how to use his sword. And I don't have to say that being a warrior is a dangerous profession. So if you're going to be a warrior, better be a good one. A good moral warrior fights for what's right. He doesn't just fight for whatever he wants. He protects the weak. He seeks justice. He doesn't just go around picking fights. He's wise. He uses strategy. He seeks advice. He seeks counsel. He likewise studies and knows his enemy. And this is not just for the physical war. As I said, I am a combat veteran, and by God's grace, He got me through that in one piece. But this goes for the spiritual battles, for the mental battles, and for the physical battles. You see, the one man Jesus said in the Bible, there was one woman and one man. The one man, He said, had great faith, more than anyone in Israel. He was a centurion, a warrior, a soldier by trade. He understood authority. And so any good soldier understands authority. He understands who he takes orders from and how to give orders. We all take orders from God, whether you like it or not. He is in charge. He is in control. I don't care what modern society says, what culture says. There is only one God. There is only one truth, and there is a right and wrong. Some things are malum prohibitum, and some things are malum in se, wrong by nature. They are wrong because they are wrong, and no matter how much you want them to be good and right, they are not that. They are wrong. To know what's right and wrong, you must have and study a manual. You must seek counsel from your commander. No doubt you are seeing parallels here. I am just a simple man, and there are many things that I don't know, but by God's grace, I know this, that I was called to be a warrior, and I know that if I denied that, there would be something missing. And I don't know you, and I don't know if every man is called to be a warrior, but if you're called to be a warrior, then be a warrior. Be a warrior where you are, with what you have, with what you can do right now. whatever that means. I don't care if it's your everyday profession. As I said, I'm called to be a preacher, first and foremost, and a warrior. However I earn my bread, however I get pay, that will not stop me from being a warrior. I don't care if you're a gardener or a farmer, you can still be a warrior. I don't care if you are a primary Sunday school teacher, you can be a warrior. I don't care what you are, you can still be a warrior if you're called to be a warrior. I don't know you, but I know there's some way in your life if you're called to be a warrior that you can be. Whether that's carrying a firearm when you can, which should be all the time in America, and being ready to defend those who are weaker than you, whether it's using some other method to defend those who are weaker than you, whether it's fighting for justice in any number of ways. I can't answer that for you, but I know who has the answer, the one who has all the answers. Seek him. Ask what kind of warrior you're called to be. Ask what you're supposed to do. The battle is the Lord's. And if it's not the Lord's battle, why are you fighting it? Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and to him who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. There is one who has all the answers, and I would encourage you to ask and seek and knock. Are you called to be a warrior? If so, what battles are you supposed to be fighting? What kind of warrior are you called to be? And I can't answer that for you. But I know who has the answers. So whether you're called to kick in a door with a gun in your hand, which I've certainly done, or whether you're called to fight for somebody weaker than you in another way, don't deny who you were created and called to be. Many different kinds of warriors, but warriors are strong and courageous, and they beat their fear into submission and they don't let it stop them. So let it be with you. With that, we're going to wrap up another episode of the Alpha Male Podcast. I am very humbled that you listen. If you like this podcast, you may also like a few others. Simple Man Sermons and Gunfighter Life. Pretty obvious what those are. They're pretty clearly labeled. If you want to support this message and get it out to others, the number one way you can do that costs you no money is like, subscribe, and comment on whatever platform you're listening to this to. It will help others notice this message. So if you like this and you want other people to hear it, you can do those things. If you feel called in your heart to give. And if you do not, then please do not feel guilty. But if you'd like to support this ministry, this message, or any of the others, you can go to Patreon. The umbrella that does all those podcasts and the training and everything else that is done is Good Shepherd Training. Thankfully, now we have an actual website, goodshepherdtraining.com. So it's easy to remember, goodshepherdtraining.com. It's the umbrella for all these podcasts. Reach out to me there if you'd like. If you need prayer or advice, if you'd like this message or one of the others spoken in person at your venue, your church, your whatever you have, sometimes I do that. If you'd like to support the ministry financially, the easiest way to do that is on Patreon. Same thing, Good Shepherd Training on Patreon. You can also get some content on there that's not available to anybody else and ask me questions on there. But Patreon, Good Shepherd Training, at Patreon and goodshepherdtraining.com for the website. If you'd like any actual hands-on training, and that's not why I do this podcast, guys, but there's plenty of ways to get training out there. If you would like me to train you in any kind of firearm, shooting, survival type stuff, then you can get a hold of me at Good Shepherd Training and inquiries. You'll see all the different classes and stuff that we do on there if you'd like to visit that. goodshepherdtraining.com. You can also find Good Shepherd Training on Instagram and Good Shepherd Training on Facebook. With that, thank you. Get out there, be an alpha male, and have a blessed day.